Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Pinball Arcade. So we're starting the 90s with Diner, which is a fairly generic name. We still very much are on that path where you have things like Cyclone and Taxi. Black Knight is a little bit more obvious, complicated, but Space Shuttle and Haunted House throughout the 80s, a lot of tables like that. But then we started near the later parts of the 80s with Elvira and the Monsters and uh, Bone Busters, a Ghostbusters ripoff. But now we're just back to Diner. 1990. Let's hop in and see. See, this is definitely one of the things that is great about pinball in general is that you can just have a simplistic concept and make potentially a great table. I don't know, I've never played Diner before. Whereas if you were to try to make a game called Diner for computer games, it would almost inevitably be some kind of cell phone low effort game. It would be something that would be like Diner Dash, where there's either going to be a lot of repetition and not very creative design, or in-app purchases, or just a high price one way or the other. Whereas a pinball table called Diner is effectively going to be the only table that is called Diner, and the only table that is going to even probably be too close to that theme. So it needs to be fairly good. It needs to last. It needs to go into an arcade and potentially be resold several times between different arcade owners. Let's read the history. Diner in 1990 has all the sights and sounds and the frills and flash of a real diner incorporated in the fantastic features. For incredible appeal and game flow, this is another great game for Mark Ritchie, designer of classics such as Taxi and Fish Tales. I don't think we've played Fish Tales. We may not have that one licensed. Impatient customers bark out their orders, challenging players to knock down drop targets in order to serve them. Each happy customer increases the ball tip, and serving all 5 customers lights the diner time or dine time jackpot worth millions. Spell Diner diverts right ramp shots to an actual cup on the playfield. Your players can stir the cup for big points. This game's really cooking. Approximately 3,552 units of this table were produced. I'm wondering, generally a lot of these descriptions are just seemingly taken directly from the Internet Pinball Database, which is, I don't think, in any way affiliated with Pinball Arcade. But I'm wondering if maybe there's a bit of editorialization here, and Fish Tales was a table that came out later. They got released earlier in the seasons in which DLC and kickstarting projects happened to release games on Pinball Arcade. So it might very well be a direct advertisement to specifically mention Taxi and Fish Tales more than an actual like critical review, because Fish Tales might be terrible and they may just be promoting it anyways. Although I kind of doubt it. Alright, let's see. We do have pro mode, so we can do table exploration. There is a problem, certainly in 2021, with a game called Diner, in the fact that diners, while they still somewhat exist, they don't particularly exist in the same format that they would have in even 1990. So having these big fancy parfait style ice cream drinks, or maybe these aren't parfaits, maybe these are just supposed to be fancy milkshakes, is not something that you'd really see too much of. If you are going to get a milkshake, it's going to be in a plastic cup, not in a glass. Each of these characters seem to be kind of caricatures of several random people, unless there's something I'm missing here. No, I think it is actually politicians, because I think Boris there is probably a caricature of Boris Johnson. Babs might be Barbara Bush. Haji might have been the Japanese prime minister at the time. Pepe might be like a Mexican president. And Buck might be just a celebrity Texas oil baron. You have kind of a silhouette images here, which are interesting, but I'm not sure they fill in with the theme as much. You have a checkerboard pattern on the table, which could be slightly distracting. We definitely have seen some tables where there's just too much going on. And then you have a light up board to show the score increasing. The fact that you're having to put lights above the table shows that they're just cramming more and more lights on the table anyways. You have a ramp that goes to the top spelling. You have a standing target in the center. This ramp goes also to the... No, they go up into a clear plastic area, and it looks like it does a figure eight towards the in lanes. One of these is metal, the others are plastic. I'm not sure if there's a real reason for that. And then if this gate is open, or more accurately, I guess if this gate is closed, it goes into this cup, which seems to mechanically be designed to spin around and stir the cup, which that's cool. Then you have like a jukebox showing more scores, more backlight art, just a ton of art. And then the backboard art showing this is a trolley car diner design with a fancy looking car. Trolley car diners, I think there's potentially maybe 3 or 4 that still exist in the United States, and that's it. That would have been trolley car diners. Originally were trolley cars that were converted into diners because I guess they had an overage of them. What's funny here is you have kind of a stylized, touched up, painted photo. It was probably a black and white photo that had been hand painted there in the top left of what you would kind of expect from typical real diner patrons. And then a focus on the table. Pretty good focus on the table, although it's more just the table in general, not the play field. But then the back here does show the play field. This would have been an era, certainly, where people were still fairly poor in the United States, which I'm not sure there's ever been an era when that isn't true. But the ability to have a cheap meal that is somewhat nutritious or at least calorie high through diners was very much appreciated. Eventually that gets ruined by places like McDonald's that have cheap meals that are kind of maybe high in calories but also high in a lot of other unhealthy things. Diners, I imagine, were slightly healthier than what McDonald's was serving at the relative same time. It is also, I think, worth pointing out that this is nostalgia. This is a 1990s table that would have been highlighting something that would have at most occurred in 1960s, maybe 70s. It's kind of weird also that the drop-down targets are just solid yellow on the table in the middle. It's also some slanted drop-down targets. There's also, I guess, some solid red ones. So they just wanted to go with the checkerboard pattern, but they didn't even match the black and red checkerboard pattern of the floor. Well, let's start. There is some clock element. I didn't see a clock. It must be higher up on the backboard. In a lot of ways, this is just Taxi again. You're just gonna have 5 targets, and you're gonna try and shoot. Wow. Is there no center peg in this table? Nope, there isn't. So I seem to launch the ball, and that seems to cause the...
I'll have the Texas chili and fries.
That seems to cause the music in the jukebox to change. I think the difference you could make from Taxi here is that there's been enough time to kind of really think about what you're targeting and have the table kind of do a better job of pointing you yeah, either there's magnets in that cup or there's nothing in it. It's just a matter of how much effort you put into it as far as how hard you hit the ball. I like the idea of the table basically giving you an arc and saying shoot this way when this is blinking. But it does potentially kind of make everything feel like it's sticking to a very consistent, perhaps boring idea. Score number 1 skill shot. It's saying number 1. I like that the letters EAT are on the backboard. We were having trouble, certainly with lights, camera, action, seeing the rollovers. But oddly, the game seems to hitch up when the ball gets low enough. So that might be an indication that the engine itself actually isn't waiting for the ball to go low enough. I imagine there's probably slightly more of a cutout on this table than what you would see in other tables. And 2 games in, we already have gotten several, gotten the high score in one of these main things done. So you're going to advance the clock to 4 o'clock, advance the bonus multiplier to 4 times, score 60,000 cash register bonus, and earn an extra ball. It all seems fairly doable. Yeah, it to me seems like there's just more of a cutout here than normally there would be. Well, they should have definitely adjusted so that you don't see the ball hitch up and stop rolling once it hits a specific height. Of course, we knew that's how digitally you would recreate that, is once the ball hits a specific height. And then if you go up this, you can get a top 5 when lit. But then you can also go over to an area up there. Sorry, this diner is always open. And then there also seems to be a sinking target here. So there's like a number 1 bonus, number 2 bonus, and maybe a number 3, number 4, and number 5 bonus. And I guess the clock is the actual clock in the backboard. I hadn't even realized that. There's a famous painting of people at a diner at midnight. I wonder if they're trying to focus on that too. So I find it interesting that there would be potentially 5 different voices in one table, but there really is no reason why there wouldn't be. These are just pre-recorded ROM sound files. It would just be a matter, like, it's not like a video game where you'd have to have, where having 5 voice actors might mean more money is really spent. I imagine it was $50 on a handshake to get a lot of these voice files, if not the creators of the pinball tables themselves making the sound files and not even getting like residuals. I don't even think in video games now they get residuals in most cases. More than likely hitting the same thing over and over again is a profitable strategy.
Give me the chili and a root beer.
Okay. So, I don't think this table has kickbacks either. You may have noticed at this point that a lot of tables have the hold flipper for status report option, and I never use it. I don't think most people use it. It's not really a necessary extra thing to do.
Give me the chili and a root beer.
I don't know how much of a holdover bonus this table has, if any. Notice this table also is what is the part of the quickly decreasing number of tables that have only 2 flippers. I like that idea, frankly. Just let me focus on my left hand and my right hand. Don't make my left hand do 2 things, and my right hand do 2 things.
Would you please give to me a hot dog and a...
I guess Haji is supposed to not be Japanese, but Indian. So I don't know if that's a famous celebrity that they're parodying, or if it's just a racist caricature. At a certain point in the 90s, a lot of the minority actors were either going to get no work, or they are going to get work to be racist caricature anyway, so sometimes they didn't have a choice. It looks like hitting the far right sinkhole gives a reward, a mystery reward.
Come on, man, you are too slow.
So there might be a good argument to hitting the far right sinkhole very often. I'm really uncertain what changes the skill shot there. It seems like the ball is going the same place when I do a full power launch. Each one of the characters seems to have one specific order that they say, and each one of the characters seems to have one specific area you're just supposed to hit, maybe multiple times.
Really?
This is another table that it'd be nice if it had a ball saver feature. So that advanced the diner time. I guess it was a case that they just didn't know what really to put on the drop-down targets if they're supposed to represent the character. It would be a little too much to put the face of each character. And I guess it's just a randomization that happens on the launches, as far as whether you get a number 1 or number 2, number 3, number 4, or 5. This could easily have been in the Williams cinematic universe, and this could have been Gorby and Lola and Pinbot and Dracula. Although I don't see a real reason to go that route. If anything, I guess the question is, if we looked at specific Williams tables at specific times here, could it have been a case where they instead had 5 other tables that they could have introduced with 5 other characters? Like, if you could get Elvira on the table, that would be great, but you probably need her to license her likeness more.
Order up.
I shall have the iced tea and the Frankfurter.
So, Barb's shots are very much more difficult, I think, than any of the other characters. I don't know if the clock resets, or does it just stay where it is. It does, I think, reset. So you're, I think, stuck with playing one really good game, not potentially getting just lucky and hitting your exact target. I mean, you can rattle the...
Hurry up, partner.
There we go. Flipping the flippers doesn't seem to select the mystery bonus. So I'm just wasting my energy by flipping him.
Give me the chili and a root beer.
Come on. I imagine the wizard goal here is going to involve feeding all 5 patrons, and I imagine that is going to be more difficult than it seems. Seems like the number 1 bonus also moves faster away from its target. Oh, there was a multi-ball sync block there. Didn't even realize. Didn't even see it. Come on.
Give me the chili and a root beer. Here comes the baby.
Well, I started some kind of multi-ball mode there, and then quickly lost it, unfortunately. I guess that was a 2-ball multi-ball, so So I guess the question becomes, is there a 3-ball multi-ball on this table?
Give me the chili and a root beer.
Just not enough force. I'm still a little confused as to what I'm actually targeting for Chewy here. Whether I have to hit the ramp multiple times, or if I'm supposed to be hitting the blinking things. Because there are several things blinking here, which is kind of what you would expect from a pinball table, is to have multiple things that you could target towards. They tell you to rush and hurry up. So I guess it was the red drop targets. Interesting. So it can be fairly annoying to hear the table just tell you to hurry up over and over again.
Really?
I feel like the stereotypical overweight waitress needs to be a character, and thematically you just don't have that. At least in Taxi, in the artwork, there was a weird looking taxi driver who really didn't play any role in the story. Wow, that bonus gets really high on the cut bonus. This is the kind of game where you start off the first ball with 3 million. If the standard goals were just to get a certain score each time, it would be much more doable. Like, logically, what I would want to see if I was redesigning this would be to move the wizard goals and standard goals away from accomplishing something alone and then have it duplicate and say either start a multi-ball or score 3 million points. Because there definitely are mini tables here where trying to start a multi-ball is a lot harder than it would be on other tables. Just both balls drained. And see, if you were playing a 5-ball game of this, it's a lot easier to potentially serve 5 customers in 5 balls.
Give me the chili and a root beer.
So, yeah. The blinking lights are the drop-down targets. So it feels like you need to hit each of the drop-down targets and get really good at hitting the drop-down targets. And I'm not a real fan of tables that heavily focus on drop-down targets, so I am losing some enthusiasm for this table because of that.
Really?
This feels like it was somewhat inspired by Cyclone, but I feel like Cyclone is a bit cleaner of a table and more interesting of a theme. This is like if Cyclone and Taxi had a baby. Seems like maybe the trials are kind of randomized too, because And now it seems like I just have to hit the center drop-down targets and not the ones on the left. Whereas previously it was both. This is a table where the outlanes could use a little bit more different angles. Make it a little bit easier that way since you don't have a kickback.
Give me the chili and a...
I think the cup is open. And I could have hit the cup for some big points. I think also the under the ramp ball trap is open. The fact that there is an under the ramp ball trap also highlights how they've hit this level where they're constantly trying to add more content and they're having to build vertically because they no longer have any horizontal space.
Order up.
Although that is a cool effect, to say the least.
I'll have the Texas chili and fries.
A lot of these metal pieces that you see would almost certainly have gotten worn out and a little bent over time. And
I'll have the Texas chili.
I imagine you would have a case of repairmen needing to come in and change things. And see, it seems like once again
Hurry up, partner.
they want me to hit those center lane drop targets. There I advanced the clock to 4 o'clock. Start multi-ball. There I got the score multiplier to 4 times. Which I don't feel like 4 o'clock or a score multiplier of 4 times is actually the maximum. So I wouldn't be surprised if we have wizard goals that tell us to do the same thing again.
Would you please give to me a hot dog and a root beer?
It seems to me like there are perhaps different ways to also lock in serving the customers, and it's not just one way.
Order up.
See, we almost have all of them
have the
locked
iced
in.
tea and the Frankfurter.
So if I can get just one sharp shot to the far right, I think that would have gotten her locked in, but did I have, or I could have gotten an extra ball. 4% tip.
Baby.
There's probably a noticeable difference between the idea of giving a 4% tip now in the 1990s and what is kind of a 20% tip that is often asked for in a lot of scenarios. Like, tipping itself used to be quite rightly seen as what it really was, which is bribery, and allowing restaurants to underpay their employees. But the narrative on that has been hijacked and was hijacked for a very long time to convince a lot of people to act in their own disinterest, counter to their own interest and counter to the interest of servers and people who receive tips in general. Extra ball is automatically awarded when you get a replay score of 6 million or when you collect extra ball from today's special, extra ball can be lit until it's collected at the grill target, scoring 100,000, 300,000. Complete multiple cash register shots consecutively to score a cash register bonus. This is a consolation extra ball. There's a consolation extra ball if your total playtime of the first 2 balls is less than 40 seconds. Extra ball lights the out lane here and here. Alright. Well, see, that means that's fairly easy. Here, we'll just do this. Well,
Give me the chili and a root
do
beer.
nothing on the first ball. I wish more tables had consolation extra balls. And then we'll launch again. And we'll do nothing on this ball.
Give me the chili and a root beer.
Well, that should have given you an extra ball.
Really?
Apparently not, instead of giving you credit. So either it takes so long that you can't even get it in under 20 seconds if you're trying, or the instructions here versus what's being emulated is different.
Hey, get fed out.
So I think your best bet is probably just to target the daily special as much as possible. And I guess you can lock a second ball by getting it into the right place. So if I did something like that, it's not quite strong enough. I think that was still too difficult, too strong. The shot.
I'll have burger and fries.
Didn't even go for the weaker shot that time.
I'll have burger and fries.
These flippers are like some of the other Williams flippers we've seen. They're a little weak. Like the Williams tables in particular do have that feeling where you are just not as powerful with the other as the other tables are. And I definitely do remember that being a thing that happened in the real world too, is that there were definitely some tables where the flippers seemed weak and you just could not get the ball all the way up. There's a couple tables where the flippers felt a little strong and they were shooting the ball really fast and potentially bouncing up and hitting the glass screen. I think Wrecking Ball is probably a great example of that, where they intentionally, I think, needed to make those flippers stronger for its concept.
Ándale, ándale.
I need to turn the follow off. That would probably help me a little bit.
Ándale, ándale.
At least I think it would.
Order up. Would you please give to me a hot dog and a root beer?
Like, I suppose it is worth mentioning, or just saying it out directly, that if I feel like Lights, Camera, and Action was sexist for having two female characters who really don't play any role in the story, in the theme of the pinball table, this is clearly a racist table by 2021 standards, with thick stereotypical accents and stereotypes of either random made-up people or famous people.
Hurry up, partner.
So I don't know what you do in 2021,
Come on, man.
like, because you are at that point painted into a corner where you can't have any comedy around it, otherwise it's gonna feel like you're making fun of races of people, and that's going to be accused of racism. And then if you don't include any races because of fear of accusations of racism, that's going to call about accusations of racism for not being diverse enough. There is a decent argument that there probably are chicken shops and southern style food shops in which Africans run and do real good jobs cooking food, so you could try to go that route and be serious around it. It would be like the equivalent of a like independent KFC type restaurant. But even doing that is fairly stereotypical. It's maybe a stereotype that's somewhat true, but it still probably wouldn't be something that they would want you to highlight. So there was the extra ball.
I shall have the iced tea and the Frankfurter.
So if I get an extra ball now, does that hold the characters? Because if it does, there's a decent chance here I'll actually be able to pull this off. But even if I do pull it off, it's probably a wizard goal, and so I would just be accomplishing a wizard goal when I can't actually accomplish a wizard goal, because I need this game to end first. I can lock the ball.
Order up.
Multi-ball. I can hit the cup.
Texas chili and fries.
So that was slightly too weak.
Chili and fries.
Four out of 5. Which, if I have 4 out of 5, is that what determines a 4% tip? Probably. So the highest tip you can get, I think, is probably 5%, but maybe not. And a percentage tip is not going to drastically change your score. So now the wizard goals are to score 2.5 million plus, on the cup bonus, or score a 1.5 million grill bonus, score the ramp bonus, score the drop target bonus, and score a 12 million dine time jackpot, which I feel like that is something you would just have to put more work into. Time certainly would probably have this happen. In a lot of ways, this feels like this is still just Taxi, though. Like, it's far too close to Taxi. I would much prefer to go back and play Taxi. Some of the targets in Taxi are also a little bit easier to pull off, because they're a little bit closer to the lower playfield. So I suppose if you would become an expert at Taxi, playing Diner makes a lot of sense. There was also, I believe, a movie called Diner, so it seems like there's a running theme of making pinball tables based off of movies. If there wasn't a movie, there was a TV show called Diner.
Hurry up, partner.
This is definitely a table I'd want to put a center peg in. Although I'm not sure a center peg particularly helps you, because this also feels like one of those tables where the pinball flippers are just a little bit further away from each other than normal.
I'll have the Texas chili and fries.
Alright, so if I can hit a really powerful shot there. That was not powerful enough. I probably need to nudge when I'm up there. That would be my guess as far as what to pull off.
Hurry up, partner.
Oh man. That weak shot. Yeah, I feel like we need to go play Taxi. And let's just compare, refresh my mind a bit here. And let's go play Taxi. And see if the flippers play a little bit better. So in Taxi, you have the spin out launch at the beginning instead of the cup in the middle. The table definitely feels less busy. The audio is not as good. There's much more of a focus on the figure 8 shots. I'm doing the lane changes. Wow, the fact that the camera went up and down made me lose that. Yeah, this feels like a much more simplistic table and much more desirable. There's even a little bit more skill on the spin out. And the improvements you would have liked to see on this table, for instance, a kickback or center peg, are missing. If anything, this is an argument that the developer, over the course of several years, did not learn anything or learn the right things, and instead just went with a crazier, more busy environment. Here on this table, you can see how the bumpers play a big role and are like important elements, whereas the last 4 or 5 tables we've done, bumpers have just become completely ignored. Yeah. I think I would kind of prefer to play Taxi. And then I wanted to also see, we sort this by manufacturer. Do we have fishtails? Yes, I guess we do. But that is a 1992 table, so they're describing a table that we wouldn't have seen yet if we were going chronologically, which we are.
Order up!
Because this is a 1990 table, and Taxi was 86, 87, somewhere about there. I think the black and white pattern,
Give me the chili and a root beer.
the red and white picnic table pattern, and the black and red tile patterns all kind of distract. You probably would have done better if it was just solid black or solid white there for the background. But yeah, there's
Give me the chili
just
and a
about
root beer.
2 or 3 extra things here that I don't think should be here. Shoot, if this shot up into the cup at the beginning, that would probably be more interesting. Get rid of the 2
Give me
sync
the chili and a
targets
root beer.
back at the top that you can barely even see anyways. Maybe re-angle the... Well, there I tried to nudge it as much as possible, and it didn't work out. Yeah. I am in a weird position where I both applaud that they squeezed so much content into the table, and I also am critical that there's so much content in this table. We are hitting a level where tables just need editors, someone dedicated to keeping things more simplistic. And I imagine by the 90s it wasn't really that much of a difference in cost to add one more toy, one more thing on the table. And that's why in the 90s we started going down the route of seeing a lot of ridiculous content and ridiculous extras. So the 90s is going to be a journey of learning self-restraint, I imagine, more than anything, for pinball table creators. And they probably won't learn that lesson, and then in the 2000s we'll start to see people slowly being forced to somewhat learn that lesson. Although, yeah, if you were making a new table for 2021, you would have to have some self-restraint, because putting extra ramps and cups and lights and things like that would be just thoroughly unimpressive to a new generation, and it would be so much easier to just have a LCD screen and visuals and sound effects. Like, sure, in theory you could put an 11.2 surround sound system around every pinball cabinet and have like a IMAX experience visual, and that would probably be more impressive than any physical thing you could put on the table. So in 2021, if you're making a table, it's got to be a 100% nostalgia play. It can have 1, maybe 2 new ideas, 1, maybe 2 new gimmicks, and then the rest of it has to just feel like every other pinball table that's existed, or every good pinball table that's existed. And in a funny way, I guess that is an argument that there really isn't room for growth in the pinball industry.
Give me the chili and a root beer.
Because it has to, by its own nature, be fairly stagnant. It becomes genealogical and historical.
Here comes the rush. Underlay. Get that out.
So we got a 2-ball
Hurry
multi-ball.
up, partner.
I haven't all
Order up. Come on, man.
If this table had a ball saver every time you even locked in a character, that would be nice.
really.
I really do feel like the ball saver feature was introduced to pinball too late in its history, and had it been introduced a lot earlier, it would have given a lot of opportunity to potentially fix some tables, make them much more playable and much more enjoyable. If a table, for instance, has one
Order up.
drop target that always seems to make the ball fall down the center drain, then you could just do a firmware update and have the ball saver kick in. We've been playing this table for about an hour and we got all these standard goals done.
I'll have the Texas chili and
I
fries.
would feel like it probably would take me some really good games though to get the wizard goals. I don't feel like I'm doing particularly great on this table. This isn't one of the tables that is often fun, but is too easy. So I might end up spending more time on a table like this than I'd prefer, compared to, say, Elvira, where I'd like to potentially play more of that, but I imagine I will get all the goals done on Elvira fairly quickly. I suppose it is worth mentioning, though, we are halfway through and I've yet to, in less than an hour, been able to get all the wizard goals on even one table. And there is a chance, certainly, that I won't get all the wizard goals on a single table. But it is a diminishing motivator too. I don't think I'd come back and try to do a whole new series playing each table a second time for an hour and make footage around it. If I were going to come back and play these tables, I'm going to play them in my private time.
Here comes the rush. Underlay. Get that out. Hurry
So
up.
we've got
Order
2-ball,
up.
multi-ball going on.
Come on, man. Baby.
I think that launched a 2-ball, multi-ball too. Either that or it locked a ball for multi-ball.
Order up.
Oh,
Give me the chili and a root beer.
I have one more ball to get one more character. I don't know what lights up Diner, but clearly not. It's not that hard because I've done it. So either we go for we go for the drop targets, or we go for multi-ball, or we go for the special.
It's dine time.
Okay, dine time. What am I aiming for in dine time? Grill, drop targets, ramps, dine time score of 5 million.
Give me the chili and a root beer.
I got dine time, but I guess you maybe have to get it twice, or there was a countdown there, or there was a jackpot there that I reset. I don't know if this table really has a jackpot though. It crosses the different threshold.
Order up. Would you please give to me a hot dog and a root beer?
It does feel like it would be pretty much just pure luck to get the cup up to 2.5 million. You just gotta, I suppose, just pull it off.
Would you please give to me a hot dog and a root beer?
And then Paul immediately drains. So I guess I needed to have increased the dine time value, which probably means I needed to have hit
I'll
this
have the Texas chili and
ramp
fries.
a lot more. And it does feel like now that I'm getting to kind of know this table, it seems like you are just having to hit the drop targets way too often.
Order up.
That seems
I shall have the
unnecessarily
iced
focused on the drop targets. Where there's 6 drop targets, it would almost make sense that if each drop target was a focus of one character, and so you just had to hit the drop target and nothing else to serve a character. We also got the tip up to 8% because we went around, which theoretically means that I guess if you could get really, really good at this table, you would potentially get a tip up to 20%, 100%, 200%. You could, I imagine the sky's the limit as long as you can keep the ball in play. I probably wouldn't want to get it much higher than 255% before you would hit some kind of a pinball equivalent of a kill screen, which there must be something like that in pinball where the scores either roll over or the game crashes completely. Although you may notice that there aren't too much talks around hitting the kill screens on pinball or modern games, because while it may happen, it's either too much work or just too much too boring to do. where games like Donkey Kong that do have a very known kill screen are finite, and players got so good that it makes sense that you would play all the way to the
I
end,
shall have the iced tea and the
as far as you could
French
go. I wouldn't be surprised if most arcade cabinets and pinball machines too by the 90s didn't really have a kill screen and the scores would just roll over to 0. I wouldn't be surprised if there is some secret high score that just ends the game in general. Not sure what I'm really even shooting for. I know we're trying to get the cup score. As high as possible.
Really?
Let's see. This is one of those games where I don't really want to put it away. So, what were the wizard goals we still had left? The cup is the key features of the playfield. To open the diverter, shoot it in the cup. First, collect all the letters in diner. And letters collected each time the diner ramp is shot. At start a new game, diner is already completed. Once diner is completed, shoot the diner ramp. Lights 10 times letter value for 10 seconds. Shoot the ramp before the timer expires to send the ball into the cup. For every 2 revelations the ball makes in the cup, it moves 1 letter to the right of the diner. Okay. Each letter has an assigned value to it, starting with 25,000 points up to 250,000 for the R. It will not move past the R. When the ball exits the cup, it awards the cup bonus. This is 10 times the value. R awards 2,500 points. I don't know why there was a plus then, because I can't award that. Plus 100,000 for each additional revolution the ball makes in the cup. Okay. Maximum cup bonus is 3,500,000. Okay, so it can be higher. So just shooting that 1 ramp over and over again would eventually get that reward. When the multi-ball begins, rush 1 lights are at the eject hole. What eject hole are they talking about? Shoot the spinner to send the ball into the eject hole. I'm not sure I got the ball in the eject hole even once. This light's rush 2 for 20 seconds. If you fail to shoot in the sinkhole before the timer, then rush 2 turns off and rush 1 relights at the eject hole. Complete the eject hole again, the relight. Once the lit sinkhole shot is complete, the diner ramp and cash registers ramps light for the ramp bonus. They remain lit for the duration of multi-ball. Each time the ramp is shot during multi-ball, it scores a ramp bonus worth 500,000. Okay. Another way to score points while dying time is lit is by completing the right drop targets and left drop targets. Each drop target scores 20,000 points. Completing both banks scores a target bonus of 1,000,000 points. Dying time turns off when the 20-second timer expires. After that, one of the customers must be served again to relight dying time. If the jackpot was scored, all 5 customers must be served again. Serve all 5 customers by hitting the left and right drop targets over and over again. Once all 5 have been served, dying time lights at the eject hole for 20 seconds. Shoot the eject hole. I guess I did hit that. For the dying time jackpot, the easiest way to complete this is to shoot the ball through the spinner and into the eject hole. Jackpot has a base value of 1,000,000 points. The value is multiplied by the current hour of the clock. The clock starts at 1. There are several ways to advance it. When you advance light. Okay, so yeah, there's quite a bit going on there, to say the least. Let's see if we can figure anything out. Music test, music off. Dine time lit. Rush theme, rush available, multi-ball theme, main theme, music off.
Baby.
So yeah, most of these options are just tests, like and audit stuff that is never going to even be accurate. I feel like these pro mode elements are pointless add-ons when you could have done better. And that is certainly something that the highlight about Pinball FX is at least they added tournaments and concepts and tried to get more players to play against each other. The new reboot of Pinball FX is going to have a 1 versus 100 style of like Tetris 99 style of gameplay, which that is an interesting idea to say the least. Looks like there might be a few things you could change. I don't even know what HSTD though means. I'd say once again the silhouette of the dog and the cook, which I assume is the guy, and then the 2 waitresses. That art does not really play well with the rest of the table. It could have been the theme, certainly, of the table. It just isn't. So I don't feel like it makes sense. Whole bunch of different ways that you could charge. One play is 50 cents, you can see on the art. I think we went all the way around in that case. So even in the 90s, we still are fairly... So if I have ball control, I could try fairly hard to fill in the rollovers, but they are so tight that it is easier, frankly, to come back this way, hit an eject hole, and do it that way. I'm trying really hard to hit some other areas. This is going to be one of those tables, though, where there's going to be basically nothing I can hit.
I'll have the Texas chili and fries.
You can get the grill bonus, but yeah, while you can potentially hit these drop-down targets multiple times, maybe the reason why they're not painted is because, or why they don't have any art on them, is because they're so overused.
I shall have the
2
iced tea and the Frankfurter.
ramps of importance.
Order up.
just won't be able to pull that off.
Would you please give to me a hot dog and a root beer? Order up!
With Diner and Taxi, it kind of makes it feel like it's all taking place in the same kind of Williams style false New York. I could shoot the ball.
I'll have
where I'm going. Yeah, but there's
hurry up, partner.
that just gave me the jackpot and didn't really even accomplish what I was going for. So I would be back to where I am. I don't even know where the score multiplier lights up. And they tell you to hurry up, but there isn't actually no timer on it, is it?
Hurry up, partner. Order up!
And there's no bonus for actually moving fast either.
I'll have burger and fries.
Grill bonus of $500,000 seems to be about the highest you can get.
Hey, get that out!
But actually getting a multi-ball is pretty much impossible. You could try and increase the downtime value to 3 million by doing the in lanes. I'm still very confused that there are 2 eject holes and they seem to do the exact same thing. It just seems unnecessary to have 2 eject holes in the back like that.
I shall have the iced tea and the Frankfurter.
And this still kills my thumb like crazy. Grill bonus of 1.5 million. These drop down targets are also fairly easy to drop down if you're hitting them on the side. But what I'm not doing here is enough to increase the dying time any further as far as that, so a dying time of 3 million in that instance, and that just resets it. And I would much rather just just play than cheat. Yeah, I am definitely not as impressed with Diner as I am Taxi. Taxi was a cleaner table. The shots were easier. They made more sense. There was less repetition by far. And in all fairness, even Taxi was kind of dumbed down, so you were fairly repetitive in what you were pulling off or trying to do.
I'll have the Texas chili and fries. Order up! Give me the chili and a root beer.
So a little of this complexity would have been appreciated in Taxi. Like one extra concept, though. Not a whole bunch of extra concepts. Probably just more rewards for shooting the two ramps in Taxi would have probably been nice, and changing a few angles. These angles do feel like they are slightly easier than Taxi's angles, which are fairly difficult. But this is also one of those tables where there's you kind of hit a point where there's nothing new to say.
Give me the chili and a root beer.
I've seen everything this table has to offer a while ago.
Baby.
As far as legitimate scores go, sorry I went quiet there, there's...
Really?
I think... yeah, two $14 million, 14 million score game. It's quite high. Quite a high scoring table that didn't feel like it really deserved that. And then let's see. We go to overall targets. You have the cheaters in the first 10, and then 280 million seems very believable if I can get 14 million. And this is all time though, so this also kind of highlights that not that many people really wanted to play this table. If we look weekly, I'm playing this on Saturday, so unless it just reset, I am number 2 in the world. Which that is certainly asking a lot. Monthly, my score, 65. Yeah, not a lot of people want to play this table. I think that's fairly obvious. And yeah, if I did play enough of this table, I could get all these wizard goals. I feel like I could. I probably am saying that a lot more than I could actually back up and ever bother to accomplish. So we didn't get blown out of the water with the first 90s era table, but we are fine, I imagine, because, well, a lot of these logos I can't read, so I have no idea what that actually says, or what this actually says. This one is called Phantom of the Opera, and that's probably a decent one. This one's probably a decent one because it doesn't have a pro mode. And then Bride of Pinbot certainly is probably decent, and then Whirlwind is probably decent. So I'm seeing at least 3 or 4 of the first row of 8 having a lot of potential. Anyways, I went long today for really no good reason. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.